guys! Today we're going to do the Sew With Me Part 2 for the Mi Casa quilt. Let's get started. Let's see, we need the O piece so we can put it on our house or on our chimney. See, doing O to what I've got up here. And I'm just going to go right over the top of it like that. So, move that out of the way. And take my little alphabet-y off. Ah, don't drop it. Okay. For a very long strip like this, I like to get it started and then find my end and bring that together like this to where it's going to meet perfectly. And then I'm going to pull it not tight, just enough to where it's taut. And then I'm going to grab it about halfway, which is right around here. I'm just going to hold it in these two places as I feed it through the machine. So, and that will help make sure that it's nice and even, and I don't end up with one much longer than the other at the end. And as I go, I'm just kind of sliding my hand back, holding that fabric in place. Hopefully you can see all that. I'm not putting my hand in the way while I'm going. There we go. So I've got my windows done, but I need to do the door. And it looks like that's F and B. It's got to be over here. Yep, there's B and there's F. So, like that. Take off my alphabetties. So have you guys ever, I love these alphabetties, but have you guys ever gotten a pack that was missing a piece? Like a brand new unopened pack from a reputable site that's, you know, no question about, but it was just missing something. I'm trying to figure out if that's what happened or if my 2-year-old got in here and took off with my 7. That's what I'm missing, is the 7. And I have looked everywhere and I can't find it. And, you know, unfortunately, either it disappeared before I got a chance to use it, or it didn't come with it. And I'm just not sure which one it was. But I would be really curious to know if anybody else is missing their 7, or not specifically 7, but anything from theirs. Okay, so I do not want to have to stop all of this and go over there to press my, well, I guess I'm going to have to press all of these half square triangles. I was going to say I wanted to put together the house block. You know what? I think I am. I'm going to put the house block together so I can, or at least as much as I can, so I can press that at the same time as the half square triangles and come back and work on those. So let's do this. I'm going to use this little guy, and which I got from a sew sampler box like a long time ago. And which way do I want these pressed? Try and figure out if these seams are going to meet up. I guess they won't, so it doesn't really matter. So I can press it either direction I want. Well, I'm going to say blue is the dark side. I'm going to press it to blue. And it's real simple. You just kind of roll over it, and it's fairly flat. It's not as good as actual real pressing, but if it's just one little block like this, it will get the job done. So, all right. What do I have messed up? What am I missing here? Oh, okay. So I guess I could have just taken it over to the sewing machine. So I've got these parts of the windows done, but I don't have the top and bottom of the house part to the windows done. So that's what I forgot to do. Okay, my D and E blocks. I've got E right here, and there's D. So let's do this. Put that on the side. And if you notice, there's this kind of little toothed serrated edge on the side of this fabric. That's because this was a pre-cut. And normally I like to cut that off so that I just know where the edge of my fabric is. But in this case, if I cut that off, I would not have had the width of fabric that I needed in order to cut the piece. So I had to leave it on there. And whenever you have to leave it on there, it's the tip of those points that is the edge of your fabric, not the valley. It's the tip. So just something to keep in mind if you are working with pre-cuts that have those peaked edges, in case you've ever wondered. Which I'm sure all of us have at one point in time. And I've got just a teensy little bit that this top fabric is shorter. Honestly, that little bit will probably get ate up by the feed dogs. So I'm just going to ensure that by holding the top part separate from the bottom part. If you keep your finger on them together, they tend to feed through more evenly. See, now it's meeting up pretty well. So that was that part. Let's snip off that and attach our D. RD. That's not, that would be funny. It's the pirate block. RD. My jokes might not be funny, but at least I laugh at them. Somebody's got to, right? Yeah, I think what happened is I did these with a scant 1/4 inch and then I didn't trim them up. So they're just a teeny bit longer than than the piece that I cut to go with it. So it's not a big deal. Like I said, if I just hold it separate, the feed dogs will eat that extra little bit, and then I can take care of any size issue when I go to press it. All right. So that's as far as I can go without pressing. I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back and all of my stuff is pressed and I am ready to continue on. I've got to say, I am very pleased with how quickly this quilt is coming together. So, as you can see, there was a lot of bulk here. We had points, half square triangle points coming together on both sides, and then the same thing on the other side. So I pressed them all open to try to control some of that bulk. And when you are sewing together a bunch of half square triangles like this, and you want to, what your goal should be is to keep that point. Let's see. My chopstick I use for turning. So you want to keep this point right here. Well, you want to keep the point that's on the other side, but it's between the pieces right now. But this is what's going to be important, is this point. So you're going to try to sew just onto this side of that point. That way you'll end up with a nice crisp point. So let's go ahead and give that a go. And it might kind of jam up a little bit under here. Don't pull your fabric. You're not trying to force it in and you're not trying to yank it, but you might need to ever so gently just guide it out of the back. I'm not yanking on it, I'm just gently guiding it out. And it goes right through. All right, now I've got one of those ends where it's just a little bit, maybe not, maybe it's not longer, same size. I'll just hold them together and carry through. Yeah, I guess it was a little bit longer because now I'm seeing it more. That's okay. Remember what I said, if you hold it, the top fabric, it will go separately a little bit, which helps you meet it at the end. So now they are the same. I did not tug on this top fabric. No pulling. We are just holding it as it goes through so that it's separate from, because if you press your finger down on it, you're keeping those pieces together and feeding them through together at the same time. So that's why it works to hold it just a little bit higher. And just like before with a long piece, I want to find on this one, I'm going to find my halfway part first, because to me that's more important for getting these to match up. So So I'm going to hold these together so that they stay together. You could also put a clip here or a pin if you prefer to use pins. I prefer to use clips in this kind of situation because pins have a tendency to cause the fabric to kind of pop up as you're sticking it in there, and that can distort the way that it's going underneath the needle. So that's why in a lot of cases I prefer to use clips over pins. But pins certainly do have their place, and I would not say that you would want to forego having pins and just use clips for everything. I actually really like to use, I prefer pins when I'm things like when I'm doing half square triangles and I'm first sewing them for, multiple at a time. I like to do, particularly if they're, I don't usually use anything if they're small, but if they're big, that's when I use them. And I also like to use pins for the doing like the inside waistband of a skirt. They can be very useful then too. And again, I'm just finding this piece in the middle, making sure they meet up nicely, and continuing on. And before I go too far, let me just show you real quick how that point looked. So as you can see, I hit it almost nail on the head there with the, and try and bring that up close enough that you'll be able to see. My seam goes right over the top of where those little triangles of color pop through. And when I open it up, you can see, obviously it's not pressed yet, but when I do press that, I'm going to have some very nice crisp points there. And that's the way that you can get that, is just to, I do recommend trying to go just a hair on, towards the seam allowance side of the colored portion that's showing, these little two triangles. But just don't come over this direction. If you come over onto this direction, you're going to lose your points, and that's when your points end up getting cut off. So, not that it really matters. I mean, everybody's got quilts where they've lost points. And, I think sometimes there's a point lost in almost all of my quilts at some point or another. Oh, that was a bad one. That was a bad joke. Too cheesy. But in all honesty, though, if you have some little mistakes, don't sweat them. Nobody's going to see them at the end. They're going to say you beautifully finished quilt at the end. That's all anyone's going to care about. And to tell you the truth, I've actually heard stories about how in some parts of the world, sailors' wives, or sisters or mothers, whoever they may have had, who was making their clothing for them, they would intentionally sew mistakes into the clothing. If it came out too perfect, they'd have to go back and sew some mistakes into it because it was considered bad luck for it to be too perfect. You'd rather have something not be perfect than to have your loved one not come back. I just found that to be an interesting little story. I don't know if it's actually true or not. You know what? I'm going to actually start this one at the other. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because I'm still going to start it at this end because I've got one side that doesn't have a triangle in the corner, and I just find it easier if I'm not sewing onto that part. Of course, I'm going to be sewing onto it a little bit, but better one than two, I suppose. And just neat these up again. I wish I could remember where in the world that story was supposed to be from. And of course, maybe it could be true, might not be. I want to say that it was like Norwegian sailors is what the version of the story that I heard was. But I honestly couldn't tell you for sure that that's where they were from, that's who it was. All right, so on to our little house. Little house in the star. We need our, it's going to do it this way. So, like that. Put that one up there for now. And also put that up there because I don't need that right now. Okay. All right, while that's under, we're going to have our roof and attach our chimney to it, little chimney stack. Now that I've pressed my fabrics a few times, I can feel the starch in it. I just love the feeling of starched fabric. I don't know why. When I was a kid, my mother would have me iron her clothes, and I used to, whew, I used to go crazy with the starch. I don't know why. I just thought, I guess I enjoyed starching stuff. And her, by the time I got done, her clothes could almost stand on their own. I used to starch the heck out of them. And she's like, stop using so much starch. It's uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know. None of my clothes were ever ironed, so I didn't know. I just thought, wow, look how beautifully perfect and smooth it makes it. And like I said, I like the feeling of starched fabric. Oh, I swear her clothes could probably have stood on their own though, because I starched them to the moon. All right. I'm actually, if you look at this, you can see it's just a hair bigger on the top portion than it is on the bottom portion. Now, if I sewed them together like that, that small tiny bit that it's longer will multiply. So you really want to have that one that's fractionally larger on the bottom as your bottom piece, if you can help it at all. Because your feed dogs will actually ease some of the fabric, some of that bottom fabric away. So let's see, now we're even. But if I hadn't have done that, then it would have been bigger. I would have ended up with like twice as much there. You know what? I think we need this piece of the house out too. I think we're all, nope, we're not all straightaways. So that really has to be ironed before I can move on to adding the roof. But I will go iron these two pieces, and then we can add the roof. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second, make sure that I've got the, nope, I almost put the shorter piece on the bottom. I want to do the longer piece on the bottom, as I've already explained. All right. Now I am going to continue to hold this piece separate so that we can ease in that little bit of a difference that we have. This is a long length, and it's started out maybe a quarter of an inch different. Looks like it's already worked its way out though, so may not have been a full quarter of an inch, but for such a long length, I figure we can get it to ease in, and it did before I even got to the halfway part. Maybe hold it up for just a little bit. There we go. All right. Okay, so this is what I've got so far. All of these larger, it's 9 blocks and all of them are complete. I just need to sew them together and then decide if I'm going to add borders to it, which, judging by the size of it now, I think borders will probably be something that I decide to add. However, I'm not sure that I'm going to add them in the way that the pattern shows. So the pattern, it does have a place where, maybe it doesn't. Okay, so it does have like white borders, which I will add. I was thinking for some reason I was getting another pattern confused with it. But it does have white borders, which I'll add after I get all of this part pieced. And then I'm probably going to pick one of the other fabrics from the quilt to add as a border. So that is almost done. Very close. I'm going to go finish sewing it up and see where we're at.